Well, hello, and I'm just really humbled and honored to be speaking here. To be here in this group is an honor, not just to present here, but to actually be in the company of the people that are so interested in learning more about diversity and inclusion. Our time that we spend on this earth shapes our beliefs, it shapes our opinions and how we perceive things. A lot of what I've been exposed to is the military. So some of the examples I'm going to use to share these points today are going to be taken from the military, but these are examples of universal truths that can be applied to any other number of diversity, whether that is part of your friend group, your school, club, or business you might run. These are transcending principles that will apply to all of them. Because I'm in the military, I'm part of the TEDxSUU's ROTC program, as well as Sergeant First Class in the Utah Army National Guard. I need to say that these are my opinions. They've been shaped by the military, but they don't reflect the military or don't necessarily reflect the military, but or any of their components. We've come a long way when it comes to diversity, particularly in the world of race. We've come from a place where we'll have signs that say whites only, to a place where we have my white friends that will say, I'm colorblind. I don't even see race anymore. And that's really cool. It's a big jump forward. So I say, #woke. But is that really all that woke? Because if one person hears that someone's colorblind, particularly if it's a white male that says, I'm colorblind, I don't even see color anymore, they could perceive it as like, great, my race won't be held against me anymore, I've arrived. And I think that's how my white friends want it to be taken. But it could also be perceived as, you're not even going to look at my race anymore, or at all? Does it not have value? Or it could be even seen as, oh great, this white guy now is going to say they don't see race. And they're going to discard the fact that their life to where they are is so different than mine was, they're not even going to address systemic racism. And it could be looked at as two different ways. So it's like, is it terse or is it too short? The reality is, it is good to have a place that's colorblind. And that would be at a point of restrictions. Exclusionary rules should be colorblind. We shouldn't have a sign that says whites only. Well, what should we have? It needs to have a comprehensive plan, not just a reduction of restrictions, because reduction of restrictions does not necessarily change behaviors. In fact, most times it won't. For example, during the Cold War, a large electric fence was erected across Europe, right through Germany and through the Czech Republic, separating the East from the West. And this electric fence separated a population of red deer. The red deer normally would cross back and forth, but this wall being up, this iron curtain electric fence stopped it. And after several painful attempts, the deer stopped trying to cross this fence. They became two separate populations of deer. And 30 plus years ago, the wall came down. The electric fence is now gone. Yay, deer, frolicking freely, right? Well, fun fact about the deer, they live to be about 15 years old, but they still don't cross that line where that electric fence once was. I'm like, well, why not? Well, you'd think maybe they learned a painful lesson, but if the wall came down 30 years ago, they only lived to be 15, they start breeding after their second year, there's not a deer alive that remembers that wall. There's not a deer alive now that was taught by a parent that remembers that fence. It's just the way it's always been. You wake up, you're born, you have no idea of this restriction, and you explore where you were told. And humans aren't that different. That's why we have some areas of the United States where we eat empanadas, and other areas of the United States where we eat grits. We do what we do the way we've done it. That's the way we were raised. But some populations are more racist than other populations. We're a product of our upbringing. If removing the rules of restriction were enough to say, I'm now colorblind, if that was enough, one generation after the freeing of the African slaves in the United States, one generation, we should be able to expect to see a black family have the same wealth as a white family. Because now that they are no longer restricted from working for a living, what's to stop them from having all that wealth? Well, of course we know that's not true. It took a long, hard fight to even get them to where they were allowed to vote and desegregation. Even after we fast forward past all of that, is that enough to fix it? All these restrictions have been taken away? Well, no. We know that now the average black American has 1/10 the wealth of the average white American. Now, I'm not bringing this up to say that the wealth disparity is the problem. It is a symptom of a problem. That is to say that this is manifest of the fact that doing away with restrictions isn't enough. We need inclusion. There's something about keeping somebody out, and that's terrible. But once we open the front door, we need to seek to bring them in an inclusionary way. So what that's going to take is a bigger plan, more than just saying, I'm colorblind. It's going to take a strategic plan that starts with a vision. An organization's vision for diversity should reflect the overall organizational vision itself. So this vision I'm using as an example is from the National Guard Strategic Plan for Diversity and Inclusion. It came out in 2014. It's a good example, though, because if you see, this looks a lot like the military's vision in general. You'll see things like combat readiness and training. So it's not something aside. It fits nicely like a Russian nesting doll inside its own vision. But what you see in here, too, is that it adds value or sees value in diversity. It says, to achieve an organization's culture that values diversity and inclusion as highly as personal strength, training, readiness, and combat effectiveness. Now, it's hard to stress these last two words enough. It says that diversity is as important as combat effectiveness. The military is built on combat, and combat effectiveness is at the heart of the Army. And it's saying it's as important as that. So think about your organization, your club, your group, your company, your business, your friend group. What is at the heart of that organization? I would propose that diversity is as important as that, because it allows us to achieve that purpose better. Now, the idea that diversity helps human endeavors isn't just a warm, feel-good feeling about kumbaya and this stuff. That's a good idea. I like that. That feels good. But it's science. It's rested in science. In fact, science is better because of diversity. If you look at scientists and scientific research, the groups that publish their papers tend to be made up of ethnic groups of similar people. What I mean is Chinese scientists tend to collaborate with Chinese scientists. Indian scientists tend to collaborate with Indian scientists, as do Anglos or Latinos. And the argument can be made, by reducing friction, increasing communication, we could increase the productivity and effectiveness of the group making better science. But if you want to find out how useful science is after that research paper is published, we have to look and see how often do we use that finding? How often is that science put to use? We do this by seeing how often it is referenced by another research paper. So if we look at those papers, which ones are cited the most by other researchers? That means we're building on it. We'll see that it's actually groups of a diverse science, or a group of scientists of diverse backgrounds that actually produce the most cited papers. Science is better through diversity. Now, the interesting thing is this scientist didn't say, let's have friction and miscommunication and challenges so we have better science. It was a side effect. It was an aside. It wasn't even looked at when they did the science. We really want to leverage that advantage of having a diverse group. We need to have a more comprehensive plan that actually builds on that. And it's going to take leadership My clicker no longer works, so just ignore that for a second. All right, we're going to ignore that for a second. It's going to take leadership. And what I don't mean by leadership is I don't mean just someone you chose to be in charge of you. There's that type of leadership that is an implicit leader, that is, it's a billet. They're assigned to be the boss. And then there's leadership of those people that could be your peers or your subordinates that inspire other people to just do what they need to do, and they're leading that organization or that field, and they're not even the boss yet. But what is leadership? I want you to think for a second and come up with a definition in your own mind of what leadership is, but do this. Don't define a good employee. Don't say leadership is showing up on time, setting the example, working hard. That's a good employee. Leader should be a good employee, but that's being an employee. Leadership is not communication skills or collaboration. A good leader should have collaboration skills and communication skills. But does that make them a leader? What was the action? If I said, I'm going to promote you next month for the leadership you displayed, what'd you do? What was that thing? So I'm going to do my best to see if I can get a definition of leadership. Oh, someone back there fixed things. All right, this is a good example of leadership. I used to think what leadership was the ability to get things done. That's task management at best, or dictatorship at worst. You can dictate someone's hands while you're in the room, but when you leave, you don't have it anymore. Then I thought, it's inspiration. A leader's inspirational. They'll inspire people. Well, sunset can inspire a poem, but it doesn't do much to lead people. So this definition is perfect because it's not transactional like management is. It's a process of influencing people. It takes time, it takes place over time and through relationship. The leader provides purpose, direction, and motivation. So leadership is not an inspirational story or a set of instructions. It's both. It's this type of engaged leadership that it takes to move people through the building blocks of diversity and inclusion that I'm going to go through. But without this, everything's just an idea. Without someone to give purpose and direction, motivation, we'll never move to that next step. So, you may not be the leader of your organization right now as a position, but you can lead, you can inspire, you can explain the purpose. We heard today about being an ally, about communication. These are the things we can do as a member of an organization to actually lead that organization, whether we are or are not yet an assigned leader in that group. So now that we're on the same page of what leadership is, we'll go through the 4 building blocks that it takes to make a diversity plan that's going to take you from the beginning, which is colorblind, and I'm no longer restricting people by their race or gender, to something that actually leverages the diversity for you to have the inclusion in diversity that you need to have in an organization. Because, make no mistake, a seat at the table does not make inclusion. So, again, we're looking at leadership pushing this through this process from the beginning to the end. The first one is equal opportunity. I stole this one too. This is also the National Guard's diversion and inclusion building blocks, but I've made it my own. See how it's like different writing now? Yeah. So this is the colorblind front door. The colorblind front doorman for promotions is yes, come in. And that's easy. And that's my good intentioned friends that say, like, I don't even see race anymore. I'm colorblind. That's a great start. Because without that, if you don't break down those walls and say, come on in, we can't move on. But then the next thing we need to do is actually actively engage in the diversity. It says that diversity is managed. This is hard because this can be a gut check for us. As an organization, we have to look at our numbers. If we want to have the same diversity of race or gender as our general population that we represent, we have to look at ourselves and decide, do we actually meet that mark? If I'm colorblind, can I do this? I can't. And again, through our leadership, being engaged, giving purpose and direction, we can adjust fire here. We can adjust course. We're walking and we're not hitting the right, we can make a course correction. A good example of a hard course correction that the military has recently made is on our promotion packets, our photo, Our Department of Defense photo is always part of it. But we decided that it could be a bias if everyone who's promoting people is a certain race. They could have a bias to promote people that look like them without thinking about it. So there wasn't a rule that said minorities couldn't get promoted, but that was taken away so that we can have a more even playing field. If you just say, I'm colorblind, that good intention's stopping you from moving on to this next hard step of actually looking for those diverse groups. After we get through that, we can, oh, yeah, she did. You saw that. You didn't see anything. The next one is where we can actually build a cultural change to your organization. Until we have everyone in the room we need to have in the room, and until they make this group their group, we can't quite leverage all these advantages they have. This means I'm not just letting the black kids come to the dance, but letting them play their music too. I'm not just letting the LGBTQ plus, or maybe not the plus, depending on how you say it, person come to the staff meeting, but I'm going to ask them their unique and diverse ideas and get that opinion from them. Because we all have these bag of tools, and if we don't look at it, we don't encourage it, and we can't let that change the culture of the organization until it's everyone's culture. Is your organization everyone's culture? Does all minorities or majorities feel comfortable in that? Because having someone at the table doesn't mean their opinion's valued. Then, and only then, we can look at using all these advantages that we've built to fully leverage these advantages to make us a better organization, better science, more combat ready. Because an engaged leader that's actively embracing diversity, deliberately allowing it to change the culture to better the society, is an idea worth spreading. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk.